2.5 hours into this, what are you going to say? No, I've been here since 7 o'clock. Like, and David.
Yep.
So far, it's been pretty good.
Yeah. How are you today? Terrific. How are you?
Good. Started out on eyeball.
We got those signs.
We feel a bit normal.
Yeah. Metro 1, elevators.
Girls right out of there.
Well, the ones that we haven't contaminated yet, we went.
A little hole for a straw.
No, right.
Might be a little hot, but-
Metro 2.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Yep.
Caffeine patches? Caffeine patches? Maybe switch over to one of them. Mr. Miles?
Might be.
Yeah. Have a mask if anybody would like one. Good. Guys ready? Welcome to Emergency Response Committee meeting. It is Monday, May 18th, 9:32. Do a quick roll call. Mr. Matthews.
Present.
Mr. Blau.
Here.
Mr. Taylor.
Here.
Mr. Davidson.
Here.
And Barnes is here. All are present in the BOCC room. Thank you for being here. Motion to reopen item number 2.
How about a motion to reconvene?
That might be the thing to do. Thank you. And a second. Mr. Matthews.
Aye.
Mr. Blau.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Mr. Davidson.
Yes.
Barnes is an aye. Thank you. Now, please, can I have a motion to reopen item number 2?
So moved.
Thank you. Motion and second. Mr. Matthews.
Aye.
Mr. Blau.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Mr. Davidson.
Aye.
Barnes is an aye. Thank you. Discussion, possible action, set date, time, place, meeting. Excuse me, will reconvene in the event technical difficulties arise that we cannot correct in 30 minutes.
How about, excuse me, how about 2 p.m. today? About 2:30.
There's a retirement,
Will they be done?
retirement board at 2:30.
No, we do have retirement.
How about 4 o'clock?
How about Kevin?
How about Kevin? I still think it's
10:30? In the event
yeah.
Second.
10:30 today, BOCC room. Have a motion. May 18th, 10:30, BOCC. Have a motion and a second. Mr. Matthews.
Aye.
Mr. Blau.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Mr. Davidson. And Barnes is an aye. Thank you. Elected officials. if it pleases the committee, I do have some very slight updated statistics, but I will certainly put that off till our meeting this afternoon. I think probably more than likely folks would want to move to item number 7.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second to reopen item number 7. Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Mr. Blau?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Davidson?
Aye.
Barnes is an aye. Discussion review and possible action regarding reentry provisions and plans for Oklahoma County offices and facilities, specifically dealing with today and what we've observed, experienced, and otherwise what's been going on this morning. Anyone care to start the discussion? Okay. Obvious traffic count extremely low. We've got significant numbers of deputies. Thank you to the sheriff's office in that regard. I have volunteers and my full staff here. I've seen several other offices. Dan's got staff here in District 1. Special thanks to the gentleman from District 1 Yard for assisting very early this morning with cone dispersal and setting up the message board. And I know there was some work that took place on that over the weekend. And Mr. Ponder and I, in fact, exchanged messages on Saturday in regard to verbiage on that board. We appreciate the assistance provided there, and to Mr. Monroe's office and several others who've definitely been here and engaged this morning to make things go well. I've not seen significant hiccups. There have been several questions, and I made a small list of a few things that we can certainly discuss as we go around, unless somebody else has something they would care to share.
Well, David, I don't know exactly what your questions are and things of that nature, but I think the most notable thing, you said very few hiccups, and I would be reluctant at this point, 2.5 hours into this thing, to begin to make significant adjustments. We need to see how this is going to play out a little bit longer. And that's my observation from being here early this morning. So we're getting some signs up now that talk about if you're here for a court appearance, go to the east side, and then the general guidance that the BOCC passed regarding, you have a fever in excess of 100.4. Those signs are now beginning to go up around the complex. Cody and I put some of those over in Metro 1 and in the elevators as well to try to alleviate people even making it over to the entrance of the annex. And as soon as we're done here, we'll go hit Metro 2 if it hasn't already been done. But I would caution against an overreaction and snap changes. We'll see how this plays out. So I just want to say that before.
Well stated. I'm in full agreement with that, and thank you and Cody for distributing signage. We did have a little sluggish start to signage in a few areas, and starting to see that come to greater fruition. Also appreciate the gentleman from Mr. Warren's office. That screening at the front door of the annex is a huge help. And Mr. Cotter, one of my volunteers, is out assisting with that, as are the deputies. And when we can redirect folks before they enter the facility, particularly if going to the court, or in fact we have information they don't have a case, they don't need to be here. That to me is a big piece of this, and that's part of the reasoning behind the signage over in Metro parking as well. Very much appreciate that. I think I'm sorry, go ahead, yeah.
Well, I'd like to thank the employees who have graciously moved around to the west entrance or the west gate and come in on the back side of the building. I think that went very smoothly, and didn't hear any complaining. And, like Joe, I've been here since before 7 this morning, and we had employees coming in at that time, didn't even come across the street. Just walked down the sidewalk by the in front of the parking garage or across the west side of the parking garage and went over there. It's gone very smoothly, and I thank our employees for following that guidance in doing that.
Certainly agree. I think the key is messaging. There were multiple methods and attempts at messaging late last week, and I was also pleased to hear from a couple of folks that apparently the press release, although I got no responses Friday or during the weekend, that apparently it did hit some media sources.
I saw it on 2 TV stations last night, one at 5:30 and the other one at 10 o'clock.
That's good. That's very favorable. Any other comments from the committee?
Just going to ask if the sheriff's department had any observances or items they wanted to discuss at this time.
Good morning, sir.
Morning. Wasn't exactly expected to speak, but I can tell you what I've observed since I've been here this morning. Since about 7:15. Obviously, we didn't get the numbers that we somewhat anticipated, but we'd rather err on this side of desperation than the other side. So it is allowing us to work out some flow and allowing us to educate staff on how they need to come in and out of the building. We're much rather do that during the, with today's numbers as opposed to what it could be. So everything's looking good so far. We've got some mechanisms in place to make sure that we keep some extra bodies in the building, and we're just going to play it by ear and stay and keep in communication with everybody, figure out what our needs are, and go from there.
Very good. I've not been in the upper floors of the courthouse.
I went all the way up to 6 or 5, or I can't remember how high I went before I used to come down here. But there's nobody out in the hallways waiting. Everybody's they're directing people as needed. Everything seems to be going really well.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Major.
I think the messaging, again, is a key element. I've got people at the front door, and I know others are doing the same thing, that people come without a mask. They are being offered a mask and advised that it is a requirement on the elevators that they wear a mask. And hopefully adherence to that is moving forward. One question in regard to employees being allowed to use the stairs. They're currently being directed into that portico area to hit the freight elevator and then go up. I don't see if that is a huge issue. There was one recommendation to open the front revolving door, and keeping in mind with what Mr. Blau shared, making drastic modifications is probably not warranted. There are no traffic congestion issues, which was my greatest concern, potential. I don't think we're having an issue there. And it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that multiple of the deputies out front are bilingual, Spanish speaking. Is that correct? So if we have any challenges, that was my understanding. If we have any challenges in that regard, we can certainly address that. I appreciate that resource. There was some discussion also about the group that we mentioned last Friday of non-employees who are carrying cards that allow access, accelerated access to the front doors. And speaking with Captain Abernathy and Lieutenant, some of those cards actually have expired. I guess they have a time frame on them, and he was expressing to me, and Captain was expressing to me, that some of those had expired possibly in April, early May, and without running them through the devices, they really didn't know if they were still current or not. We've been directing those folks to the west gate entry as well, which is still my recommendation. I think we need to stay with that particular plan. There was concern that because they had paid an additional fee in order to get expedited access, that they may be concerned or, I won't say disgruntled or disappointed, but keep that in mind as we go through. And I've been sharing the message of consistency and trying to set the example, which is what we're trying to do in regard to access. And as Dan said, the employees have been doing a phenomenal job. They grin all the way around, and I think, are enjoying the fresh air. The tunnel that Mr. Monroe coordinated seems to be working well. I don't know about crane issues. That was supposed to potentially have occurred later in the day today as arrival on site. Don't know if that's still in place or not, but we will certainly be addressing that with Mr. Monroe and any construction related or crane related concerns that we may have at that point. Any other input from members of the committee? Anyone care to share? With that in mind, I would entertain a motion to recess until 10:30. Do that
Till 10:30?
that not when we,
Well, I just
Set our
set up
timing.
at 10:30 in the event we had a technical
Okay.
difficulty.
do we want to aim for the end of the day, the first day
How about-
after action?
2:33.
Okay.
3 o'clock. 3 o'clock.
Are we clear about the meetings then?
The board is meeting again at 4, aren't they?
And that's a very open-ended agenda item that they have, so if there's something drastic, at 3 o'clock, we can discuss it. David can throw it to the board.
Okay.
for that discussion.
All right, I got a motion second to recess until 3 o'clock today in the BOCC room. Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Mr. Black?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson? And Barnes is an aye. Motion passed. We stand in recess. Thank you very much.